JT OSullivans made a video about Kyle Shanahan on April Fool's Day. It was funny. It was well produced. He had like the, sitting across from himself thing, very high technical aspect to it. But also,
Yes.
I mean, film breakdown of each injury. And look, I mean, guy played quarterback in the league. He was very compelling. I'm sure everyone could look at those plays differently, but he made quite a case. You watched it. Do you think JT OSullivans is right about him? He essentially said he got the genius label at a young age, and he got all of his opportunities at a young age because of his last name. He might be a good coach, but he ain't no genius, and he has deficiencies too. And he's more culpable in these injuries than he admits. That's his takeaway with Kyle?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I thought it was really entertaining that JT. First of all, I mean, it was hilarious. It made you laugh,
Yeah.
but then the film breakdown was really good. And in some ways, I kind of felt like he took away from his film breakdown by being Kyle Shanahan. He should have just been JT OSullivans doing film breakdown. I think it would have come across as more credible. But it was funny.
I see what you mean. I see. It didn't need like the sandwich. It just like the meat in between, in the middle. That was enough.
His analysis was biting. His analysis was concrete. He didn't need to have himself in a Kyle hat and everything. But I mean, it was impressive to watch.
Him showing Trent Williams kind of loafing through the play was very interesting. Him showing Deebo Samuel sort of not running hard on the end around in the NFC Championship game was very interesting.
Like on that play that he said that Trent Williams was loafing, I watched that play over and over again. I didn't feel like Trent Williams was loafing. But,
anyway, it was an interesting take on it. He called
all
world, huh? He said all world, huh?
Yeah. And then also I thought he was, he went through some of the route combinations and how certain ones didn't make sense. And it was interesting for sure. And JT
asking Deebo to run a hot route and break off his routes, like, well, he's not a running back. Have you taught him that? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Then JT, of course, suffered his own hits under Mike Martz. So he's he's probably sensitive to pass coverage or pass protection, I should say. But no, it was good. I mean, I thought it was really interesting. And I love the way he kind of went through all the routes and all, and how some of them didn't make sense, and how some, you had guys that should have been in other spots. And it was a little, I don't know. It was a little passive aggressive in that he didn't really harshly go at Shanahan. He just kind of nitpicked him a little bit here and a little bit there. It's like, are you committing to Shanahan sucks and you want him out? No.
He put it out on April Fool's Day, right? It's like, hey, it's all in good fun.
And it's all in good fun, and he had some fun with it, and it just was very sorority house passive aggressive.
Well, here's the way I look at it. The other takeaway he had is that, very sophisticated run game, very sophisticated play action passing game. Where is the drop back passing game? It's very pared down. It's not sophisticated. There's not much to it, from the patterns to the pass protection concepts. And I think that's interesting in the sense that he played for Martz. Kurt Warner played for Martz. Kurt Warner had some of the same takeaways, especially looking at those patterns, being like, who drew this up? Why are there three receivers in the same area? Those guys came from drop back passing background where Mike Martz, that's all he was thinking about. And you look at like the dominant offense in the league right now. It's the McVay-Shanahan offense. It's like 30% of the teams. Well, only one of those guys has won a Super Bowl. It's Sean McVay, and he won it when he pretty much gave up on the run game and admitted that you needed to go bombs away, brought in Matthew Stafford, and became a pass-first offense. Like, it's fair to wonder if this Shanahan scheme really works. I mean, works at the highest of the highest levels.
It's a run scheme.
It's a run scheme. It's a passing league. End of story.
It's a run scheme.
It's a run scheme.
It's a play action pass off the run scheme. I mean, I don't see super sophistication in their downfield passing attack. I also don't see any consistency. I don't see, like, there's plays that we see around the line of scrimmage that we see regularly, but how many plays down the field do you see regularly, or that you
regularly
say a staple? I
can name it on it's four plays, maybe four, and it's usually when like Christian McCaffrey throws the ball.
I don't see any consistency week to week in their downfield plan of attack. it seems different week to week. And then sometimes it's not there at all. Now, how much of that was on Jimmy? How much of that is on Kyle? How much of that is on
Brock?
The Brock? How much of that is on the receivers? The
personnel,
lack of speed. There's been some years they haven't had any deep speed. They had nobody run off the coverage. Everybody's playing them in like a 12-yard, window. So I mean, it's like all these things matter, but eventually you got to have some consistent downfield passing attack to keep teams honest. And I don't know that they have identified what those plays are, who their receivers are, who are they even trying to go deep with.
I thought that's why they drafted Danny Gray, but maybe it's for special teams.
They went deep in the preseason to him. That was it. Maybe twice all year after that.
You got me on that one. Fish and Chip says JT nailed it. Truth and humor. Kid Kyle exposed. I thought it was interesting that JT O'Sullivan and Raheem Mostert kind of hit him with like the 1-2 and like back-to-back days. It felt like Kyle was untouchable from that season in Atlanta where he was the assistant coach of the year. It seems like he's been untouchable from then until now, but now it feels like people are starting to poke at him and getting a little emboldened into it. It's an interesting phenomenon. What do you make of it?
Well, I think the Mostert criticism is fair. I mean, Mostert's basically saying, hey, in some of the biggest losses of your life, if you had run the ball a little bit more and committed to the run, you would have won those games. I mean, what he's really saying is you would have beat the Chiefs. What he's really saying is, in Atlanta, you would have beat the Patriots if you ran the ball a little bit more. Who knows? Maybe you would have beat the Rams if you had run the ball a little bit more. I think it's fair. I think that part of it is fair. I think there's times, he's a run heavy coach, but there's times
it's like his dad.
Yeah, but there's times where he just abandons the run. It's just like, you know what, we're just going to pass. We're just going down the field. We've seen it a few times, and I just feel like with a lead, they should be thinking clock and icing the game, and instead they're still thinking chunk yard plays and passes, and they take more chances than they probably should take. They probably should bleed more clock. God knows they got enough backs to do it. They got a back for almost every possible game situation there is. I'd like to see them with a lead in the second half run the ball a little bit more. Yeah.
I guess I just feel like the game has changed, the rules have changed, and Kyle is really kind of stuck in the past. JT O'Sullivan called one of his patterns like it was straight out of 2004, I think is what he said. He's like this lazy 7-step drop. Josh Johnson's injury. I think his whole thing is get the defense to overcommit to the run. Defenses don't want to do that anymore. They want you to run the ball. They want you to run. They're going to play 2 deep safeties. They want to invite you into an 11, 12-play drive, and they figure you're only going to pull those off with touchdowns twice a game, maybe 3. So it just seems like Kyle Shanahan's kind of playing into defense's hands now. Like you're not taking advantage of over-aggressive 8-man fronts anymore. Those don't exist because of you. Everyone knows what you want to do, and they're not going to let you do it anymore. So what are you going to do to adjust? Hey, pass.
I thought the Eagles, the play action, it works against a lot of teams, but the play action, the Eagles were so good against play action because they really weren't honoring the run threat. They were just going upfield and running. They'll play the run on the way to the quarterback. They're getting up the field. And that's what I saw from Reddick in that play.
Isn't that what the Niners do?
Well, that's what the Niners, I think, theoretically do.
That's what they do too.
Wide 9, get up the field.
That's right.
And
right.
It's not quite that simple, but as far as, I think when you look at those incredible numbers Philly's defense had against play action this year, it was because guys like Reddick were not reading the mesh point. Right. They were just attacking the quarterback. And if anything, that play action just makes the quarterback hold the ball a little bit longer and gives guys like Reddick a chance to sack him. Right,
because it used to be your number one thing you had to do on defense was stop the run. Because if you couldn't stop the run, you couldn't stop anything. Now, it's not that league anymore. No. The number one thing you got to do on defense is stop the pass. And if a team wants to keep running the ball for 4 or 5 yards of carry, God love them. Let's see how many times they can pull off those long drives. If you got Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady, you can do it. Otherwise, you're probably not going to do it that many times.
Think about it. Niners lost DJ Jones. They were not good this year against the short yardage run in the middle of the field. And yet they went to the NFC Championship game and it barely burned them. And ultimately it's not the same league. Do you need to be able to stop the run? Yeah, but you really need to be able to have those nickel defenders who can play pass coverage, man or zone, and stop the passes, because the passing attacks have become sophisticated. And not only that, you're seeing teams spread it out more. They're throwing it more. They're throwing it on non-throwing downs more. So you got to be able to play coverage.
You can't let them gas you in the run game. You can't give up explosive runs. You can't give up explosive plays. But if you can tackle, if you can invite the check down, and you're only giving up 6 yards a pass, 4 or 5 yards a run, and there's no run longer than 10 yards, no pass longer than 15, you're making it really hard on the offense. They're going to have to execute at a very high level all game without turnovers and penalties. Most teams don't, especially in the regular season.
And you're seeing it also if you put a 4-man defensive line and there's somebody on your D line that has zero pass rush, the offensive line will basically just keep account of him. They don't even really need to worry about him. I mean, that's why the Niners spent $40 million guaranteed on Javon Hargrave, because he has been a natural interior rusher going back to South Carolina State. Now it's like, that's what you got to have. You got to have everybody on your front's got to be a pass rusher. There's no room for non-pass rushers.
It was interesting. The Niners took Hargrave from the Eagles. He's statistically a liability against the run, but the Eagles don't have him anymore. Great pass rusher. His replacement is Jordan Davis. They took him in the first round last year. I was watching the NFC, the Super Bowl again, just to see where Hargrave did what he did against the run. He got moved around a little bit against the run. Jordan Davis is horrible. Whoa, he's terrible. He's like their Javon Kinlaw, but not injured, just legitimately high pad level, low effort, like just getting worked. Yeah. They need another guy. They need to draft another D tackle. That guy was a straight up bust. Whoa.
He looks exactly what you want, but he doesn't play that way.
No, I mean, he's supposed to be like this guy who runs. He runs fast.
Yeah,
but he doesn't doesn't anchor.
Huge,
doesn't play hard.
Anchor. He's got quick feet, but doesn't sack the quarterback. I mean, he's out there, but he doesn't get a lot done. He
doesn't chase the ball.
The only thing is, when you're that size, you don't have to. You can just come out of your stance and kind of absorb blockers, and that alone will keep some bodies off of your backers. But I mean, even then, it's like first round draft choice.
Yeah,
first round draft choice, really.
Yeah. I mean, looked like a straight up mistake.